Hi, can I do the bacon and egg breakfast sandwich and a lemonade?
Good morning! I just got breakfast, did some reading, which honestly is the best way to start a day. I'm currently reading Reckless by Elsie. I started this book yesterday and I just meant to read for like 20 minutes yesterday, and then the book got so good and I ended up reading over 250 pages yesterday. I just ignored all my work and read. There's something unexpected that happens at the beginning of this book and that just really hooked me. But yeah, I'm loving this book so much. I have the biggest, fattest crush on Theo Silva. He's very quickly becoming one of my favorite book boyfriends. He's such a flirt, which I love. Like, what is not to love about Theo Silva? Okay, let's head home and do some more reading. I just read page 431 and I'm so excited about this next chapter. We're getting something unexpected. I'm not gonna tell you because spoilers, but you know, like when you're halfway through a book and you get like a surprise POV and it's so exciting because it feels like bonus content? That's what this feels like. It's not a surprise POV, it's something else, but it's just as like bonus content feeling as a surprise POV. I finished the book. Oh my gosh, I loved it so much. 5 stars for sure. I think this is my new favorite book in the Chestnut Spring series. Theo Silva is just, oh, he's seriously gonna go down as one of my top book boyfriends. I also love that he's a bull rider. We got that in the first book in the series, Flawless, but it was great to like, I don't know, hear about that like sport and industry again in this book. And yeah, I am so excited for the next and last book in the series, Hopeless, which is Beau's book. Beau to me feels so kind of mysterious because we don't know that much about him, and I have a feeling that his book is going to be a little bit more of an emotional one, just a guess. But yeah, that's all the reading that I'm doing for today. That was a lot of reading, to be honest, a little bit higher than I would normally read in a day, but this book was just so good. If I find a book I love, I can't put it down. There's 2 books I'm really debating between reading, which is The Wishing Game and Spinning Silver. I've had the strongest craving to read a fantasy book for this book, and I was like, why do I want to read a fantasy so bad? And I looked on Goodreads, like the most recent books I've read, and the last 9 books I read were just complete romances, which I normally read romance, but I typically mix it up. Like I'll read a few romances, then a fantasy, then a few romances, maybe like a mystery thriller. I just think it's been a long time since I've read that many just 100% romances in a row, so I need something different for this next book. Here's my debate. I really want to read Spinning Silver more, I think, than The Wishing Game, but I'm still trying to hit my reading goal this year of 100 books. I have so many books left to read, I don't even know if it's possible to hit my reading goal. Wait, let me rephrase that. It's possible, but not probable, but it is possible, so I'm still going for it. And Spinning Silver, I looked up the audiobook and it's 18 hours long, which is so long. A lot of times I look up audiobooks to kind of get like a gauge for how long it'll take me to read it. I read faster than an audiobook, but it's like a decent reference point, I feel like, for the amount of hours it takes to read that book. So that's just so long, and I could read 2 books in that same time length. So because of that, I think I'm gonna go with The Wishing Game. And this book does sound really good. While Spinning Silver is fantasy, this one is more magical realism. I think it has a little romance subplot in it, but I think for the most part it's fiction, magical realism, and the plot sounds quite cool. It's about this author named Jack. He writes children's books, and suddenly he just like stops writing books. It's been years and years and years since he's written a book, and out of the blue, he has a competition to win the one and only copy of his newest book. So that's where our main character Lucy comes in. She's a huge fan of him and she's competing in this competition to win his new book, which just sounds so cool. I don't know quite where like the magical part comes in, but I'm very intrigued. I just got to part 2, TikTok, welcome to the clock. So far, I am loving it so much. It feels so magical and whimsical. There's a little review quote on the front that says, "This book is clever, dark, and hopeful. A love letter to reading and the power childhood stories have over us long after we've grown up." And I feel like that is such an accurate representation of how I felt so far about this book. Our main character, like I mentioned, is Lucy, and then there's also this boy that she teaches, and they both love these children's books by this famous author, Jack, so much. And being able to read read all of like the wonder that this little boy feels when reading the books is so cool. I feel like a lot of times it can be hard for adult authors to write children realistically because obviously they're adults and it's hard to capture like the voice and like mindset of a child, but this author, Meg Shaffer, is doing such an incredible job of writing this little boy. There's so many little details, like the little boy thinks all the characters in the books are real, which feels so accurate. I know when I was a kid, I thought everything was real. I thought my stuffed animals were alive. I thought books were real life. So far, I've just felt so much like childhood wonder reading this book. On to part 3, riddles and games and other strange things. I just hit page 152 and I think I'm gonna stop here for today, but I know I've said this like 500 times. I can't get over how freaking magical this book feels. It has references to Alice in Wonderland and Willy Wonka, and I would say it really gives me similar feels to those books. It definitely feels like it could be inspired by Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And like I said, the character Jack is a famous children's author in this book, and we actually get to read snippets from his children's books, which is really cool. And it's cool how all of the like little snippets from his children's books and like the lessons you can learn in those little stories definitely reflect kind of what the characters are going through, and also just like real world lessons. Kind of makes me want to reread all my like childhood children's books, because I bet I'd find something similar of these like very magical and fun and simple stories, but that do contain a lot of wisdom, just worded in a way that's fit for kids. Anyway, I will see you guys tomorrow. Good morning. This morning I did a little reading and I read a page 194. I also went and saw Wonka last night, the new Willy Wonka movie with Timothée Chalamet. It was so good. I really liked it. Having just seen that movie while also reading this book, the vibes, immaculate. This morning when I was reading, I could not stop playing Pure Imagination from the original Willy Wonka by Gene Wilder just on repeat while reading this. It just fits so perfectly. Anyway, I just got the audiobook and I think I'm gonna wrap some Christmas presents while listening to the audiobook. I just got all Danny's presents and put them in front of me. Do you guys want to see what I got him? He's in the other room, so I may have to whisper. He really wants to start decorating his office more, so I got him a few like home decor things. I got him 2 things of art. He's into very funky art. And I got him a second one. Probably can't tell through the paper that well, but I think it's really cool. And then I got him this lamp, which now that I'm looking at it, honestly might be more my style than his style, but if he isn't into it, that's okay. He can return it and get something else. And it's really cool when you light it up. It is like multicolored light because it has this like iridescent-y outside. And then he's a big fan of the Dallas Cowboys, so I got him some Cowboys merch. Gonna put my headphones back on and let's get wrapping. This second half of the book definitely delves much like deeper into the characters and all of the struggles that they're facing. I'm really liking that the first half was so magical and whimsical, and then this second half really brings a lot of depth. Good morning. It's 2 days later. I didn't film at all yesterday just because I didn't read very much. All I did was finish the last bit that I had of The Wishing Game, and I really love this book so much, which is so unexpected just because I went in with no expectations. This isn't a book I bought, it's a book that was sent to me. Typically before I buy a book, I look up a ton of reviews on it just because I want to make sure that the book I'm buying I think I'll like, but because this book was sent to me, I didn't read any reviews beforehand. I just kind of skimmed the summary. It's always the best feeling when you go into a book with no expectations and then it just blows you away. I'm really heavily debating between 4.5 and 5 stars, but I feel like if you have to debate, then it's probably not a full 5-star read, so I'm gonna go with 4.5 stars for my rating. Anyway, on to our next book. I really want to read Divine Rivals next. From everything I've heard about this book, it sounds very like enchanting and magical, and after coming off The Wishing Game, which is so magical and loving it, I'm like in the mood for another magical book. But I did check out a book from my library as an ebook, and today is actually the last day I can read it, so I think I'm gonna try and read this ebook in one day. And normally I would just return it to my library and recheck it out later, but it's a Christmas book. There's a bunch of holds on the book after me, so I probably wouldn't be able to get it till like January, February, and by then I probably won't care about reading a Christmas book. So I really want to read it today, and then I swear tomorrow I'll start Divine Rivals. I just hit page 73, which is officially halfway through the book. This book is so cute. It takes place in this tiny town called Quincy, and our main character is from California, but she's coming to stay in this hotel in town for Christmas. And like the way this hotel feels both like so fancy, like 5-star luxury, but at the same time like so quaint and cozy. It's just so cute. When I was little in elementary school, me and my parents and some of my other family members would go on a little trip every Christmas and stay in this hotel, and just reading this book about like being in a cozy hotel at Christmas time is giving me so much nostalgia to when me and my family did this. And also the male love interest in this book is her bodyguard. So like very cozy, quaint Christmas book meets the bodyguard trope. I'm loving it. I just finished A Christmas in Quincy. I think I would say 3 stars. I would still recommend it as like a cute, short, small town Christmas book, but the ending made it like drop down a bit for me. We had a lot of good like romantic buildup throughout the book, and then I thought it just ended so fast. It felt so rushed to me at the end, which was a little bit of a bummer. I am going to add it into my virtual bookshelf though. I've been keeping track of every single book that I've read this year and adding them to my virtual bookshelf in Notability. I also use Notability for a million things. I use Notability to keep track of my planner, to make to-do lists. Notability is also fantastic for students. You can use Notability to take notes, and there's a gazillion other incredible features for students. I wish I knew about Notability when I was still in school. Outside of just writing and drawing and highlighting, you could also insert content captured from a website. So if you want to screenshot like a great paragraph from a site and add that into your notes, you can do that. And they have a fantastic template gallery where you can download a ton of templates to help keep you organized, or just fun templates. Like I said, you have the ability to draw, and they have a bunch of different brush options, so you can get like coloring pages. You can just be so artsy and creative within Notability, or you can just start with a completely blank page and make that page whatever you need it to be. Just a big thank you to Notability for partnering with me, and you can click the link in my description to download the app for free. Okay, that concludes today's reading. As you can tell by the fact that it is nighttime, I kind of struggled through this one a bit, not because the book was bad or anything. I mean, I did give it 3 stars, but we're just hitting a point in the week where I'm getting a little bit tired of reading. I think if I wasn't trying to hit my yearly reading goal of 100 books, I probably would have taken today off from reading, to be honest. I always think it's nice to take like a day or 2 off where I don't read anything, just to kind of reset, or I notice that I start to get kind of tired of books. But tomorrow, I really want to start Divine Rivals. I'm actually so excited for that book, so I think when I start it, I'm gonna feel rejuvenated and like excited to read a bunch tomorrow. Time to start Divine Rivals! I'm so excited. I tried page 78, and I really like the book so far. It's very unique. It's not what I expected. In this book, there is a war among gods, which I think is so interesting to read about. And the fact that they're fictional gods. I've read a few books around mythology, but not a book involving fictional gods created by the author. So just getting to hear about all the history of this world is very interesting, and why this war is going on. Basically, our 2 main characters both work at this paper, and they're rivals at the paper. And they're also accidentally, anonymously writing each other. So it's cool that we see their life at the paper where they know each other and they're rivals, and they have all these assumptions about each other, but then we also get to see their correspondence through writing and just how they interact with each other so differently through the letters. I'm on page 129, and this book, I said this earlier, but it is quite different than what I thought it was going to be. I think I'd always heard that it was rivals to lovers, so I assumed it was enemies to lovers, and it was going to be full of like banter and them hating each other and then falling in love, and then also some fantasy as well. But it's really not that. It's a much more emotional and intellectual book than I thought it was going to be, not in a bad way, and in a good way. It's cool, it's interesting, it's different than like the typical romantasy I would read. So I'm just very curious where the book is going. I feel like the plot could go anywhere at this point, which I'm so intrigued by. We're starting off today with part 3, the words in between. I love these pages with the flowers. I just got to page 260, and there was a little chunk in the middle where I was feeling like the pacing was starting to move a little bit slow, but then more recently the book has picked up so much more, and also we're getting a lot with the romance now, which is making me really excited. Roman and Iris feel like they have such a vulnerable and more emotional relationship, which is very cool. I just finished the book. I really liked it. I think I'm gonna say 4.5 stars. It's so beautifully written. Oh, it's literally so beautifully written, and I love the letters in this book. I think the only reason I wouldn't say a full 5 stars for me, just because, like I said, there was a bit in the middle where the pacing felt a little slow to me, and I also think it could have been really cool if this book leaned way more into the politics and the gods. I also feel like with book number 2, we're gonna get a lot more of the mythology and the politics, just a guess, but based on how this book ended. Anyway, that is the end of this video. I'll put on the screen how many pages I read this week. I started out thinking this was gonna be like a very realistic reading week in my life, but I would say this was a realistic week for me, but definitely on the high end. Like, I typically probably wouldn't read any more than this in a week. It's so crazy how every week, every month is so different for me reading wise. I was making a TikTok of how many books I read every single month this year, and there are months where I read 5 or 6 books. There are months where I read 12 books. So I feel like I really have no average reading week. Anyway, with that, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!